For joining me. My name is Kevin Anyango, the founder of Mtandao Varsity School of Soft Skills. The platform talks about those characteristics or behaviors that attract opportunities or employers are looking for. But today, I am not alone. Today, I'm talking to Justice Smokin. Justice, welcome to the show.
Sorry?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on this show.
And as I say, I'm going to say that I'm Star Trek. I will try and behave myself as we carry on this discussion.
No problem, Kevin.
Now, how should I refer to you? So, do I say Hon.Justice Smokin Wanjala? Which one do you want to use?
No, just say Justice Smokin Wanjala. or even if you want to say Mwalimu Smokin Wanjala. Mwalimu Smokin, Justice Smokin, any. I'm easy.
But for the sake of our viewers, I'm going to say that Smokin Wanjala is a judge to the Supreme Court of Kenya, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
And many people will remember you, Justice Smokin, for your ruling during the elections, where you nullified, I think the ruling for President Uhuru now and also for Raila five years ago, isn't it?
Well, for Raila 5 years ago, we actually affirmed President Uhuru elects election. But in 2017, we nullified President Uhuru's election. So you can say in 2013, when we affirmed the election, Raila was not happy. And then the tables were turned in 2017 when we now nullified Uhuru's election. Raila was happy on the one hand, and the president was totally unhappy.
And listen, this is a political show, but since you mentioned that, I want to ask this. When you make those kind of decisions, Justice Smokin, how do you feel, knowing very well that the whole world is watching you? And I'm asking this in relation to how currently young people over the world, there's a pressure of making a decision or deciding what you want to do. So back to experience. So when you kind of be part of that jury that nullified the election, as you call it, how do you feel?
I think it all depends on whether, actually the guiding principle, Kevin, I'll tell you, for any judicial work is the Constitution and the applicable law, and then the evidence adduced before you as a court. If you follow the Constitution strictly, and the law, and the evidence, you will, at the end of the day, you will always feel vindicated that you have acted according to your calling. And it matters not whether certain sections of the public or the political class may feel. So the question, the issue is, ask yourself at the end of the day, in arriving at this decision, did I follow the Constitution? Did I show fidelity to the law? And did I efficiently and effectively analyze the evidence? Those are the guiding platforms. Once the answer to all those three is yes, then you feel vindicated.
But talking about Constitution, so when you go back now to the, let's say so out of the law now, young people, they try to get into employment, they get various positions, and they struggle to make decisions. So how does someone build a confidence to make a decision, whether it favors the employer or not?
Confidence is built on the knowledge of the situation that one is dealing with. If you clearly understand the environment in which you are operating, if you can decipher and clearly define the goals which you must attain. As a young person, you must, and remember that defining of goals is not done in a vacuum. It is the responsibility of society first to create that enabling environment. Because young people are a product, and on the one hand, and part of society on the other hand. Therefore, it's a question of being clear about the situation you are dealing with. You must analyze the situation. You must then clearly come up with goals towards which you must strive. Then on the basis of that clear understanding, you will make a decision that is sustainable.
I'll talk about knowledge. So you're talking about someone to know the context within they are in. And so, for example, they just make from the vacuum, as you say. So it depends what you know, isn't it?
It depends on what you know. You cannot allow any other person or society as such to set an agenda. And therefore, knowledge, the search for knowledge is critical for the young people. Because once you know, you will be able to sit comfortably at the analytical table, with all those who have the authority to affect your future. And therefore, knowledge is the beginning point, is the starting point.
Wow. I'll talk about knowledge, Justice Smokin. What makes you look so calm like that, if I may ask? I mean, you're a judge of the High Court, but you're very calm. What's the secret? Or
it's actually my history. As I said, young people are a product and part of society. At one point, I could confidently describe myself as a young person, and that history defines me, because over the years I've come to understand the society in which I operate. I've come to understand what is the society. I've come to prioritize what I think I should strive for. I have done and documented what I think can be regarded as a contribution to good governance in my country. And therefore, I've no apologies to make. And I think that the decisions that I made were crafted upon that realization. It's always an experience. It's always an ongoing exercise. You cannot say you have arrived. That defines my calmness.
Well, you went to Columbia University. I think that's where you did doctorate in law.
No, I went to. I did my LLB post undergraduate at the University of Nairobi, the university, and I'm sure soon we shall be calling Tandao University the university.
Well, of course, yes. That's the problem.
And then going forward, I went to Columbia University in the city of New York, where I pursued my LLM, and where I must say I sharpened my critical skills of analysis. And finally, I did my PhD in the University of Ghent, Belgium. So
does school matter when it comes to opportunities? When I say that is where you go to school, it depends on what you're going to do in the future. I'm asking this in relation to, for example, in Kenya, we know the Nairobi University, we know Starehe Boys Center, those are kind of names if you mention to employer or when you look for opportunity, people listen to you. Does that matter?
On the one hand, it does matter. On the other hand, it may not matter. What matters is what you attain in the school, from the school you went. But of course, it's all a question of prestige, because various schools develop various competencies and capacities, which every potential employer will look for. So there will be all these assumptions that if you went to Strathmore College, or if you went to MIT, you went to Columbia University, or in those days you went to the University of Nairobi, potential employers will be conscious that the end product will have acquired the type of skill sets they are looking for. So it matters. But as the international community continues to grow and become complex, some of these prejudices are going to disappear, because acquisition and harnessing of knowledge is not going to be a preserve of the school or university or college you attended. And there are many innovations that are now required of learning people. Those innovations may not necessarily be situated physically in a university, however prestigious. So it all depends. It all depends.
So those people that say that hawana kazi or they don't have work because of the biasness where they went to school. For example, if you come from the village, you did your primary the same place, secondary, the next door, and then you move to the bigger city, and you think that opportunity there is not coming to you because of your background. What do you tell them then, Justice?
Oh, I tell them to jettison that kind of thought because it is self-defeating. It is self-defeating empirically. If you look at it, I, Smokin Wanjala, went to a rural school, primary school, secondary school, and high school in those days. But it depends on how you cultivate your competitiveness, you see? So that if you are then given an equal chance to compete on the basis of merit outside the framework of a school environment, you can still rise and you can still be what you actually are. So it is self-defeating to then regiment ourselves, to pigeonhole ourselves, to start putting tags on ourselves. At the end of the day, is how competitive are you when given an equal opportunity? That is what matters.
Well, talking about competitiveness and equal opportunity, as a judge at the highest level in Kenya and also well known internationally, and your interest in good governance as well. We read every day that young people or people take advantage of young people. You hear for someone to get opportunity, they have to sleep with somebody. Is there a law or is there a way that young people can protect themselves in terms of those kind of challenges they get every day?
Absolutely, and I must agree with you that it is tragic because the playground is not level. And therefore, those in position to determine whether a young person gets a job or not exercises undue power over the young people. And I think it is important that these things are highlighted for what they are, so that young people create for themselves a voice and they create a platform where they can voice the indignities to which they are subject in their day-to-day search for life or for employment. So it's a question of say it the way it is, and nobody is going to say it for you. And young people are powerful because they are still dynamic, they still have a future, and they can regroup always, they can network. And it's always about talk about what is happening. Talk about the indignity. Take, for example, our women who daily are shipped to the Middle East in search of a living, the dehumanization to which they are subject. Some of them, they come completely different, completely devastated. Otherwise come in coffins, and we've been reading it in media. Now, and then also the rampant gender-based violence in our society. All these things must be given a voice. They are given a voice, then they will create a conversation around the need for society to come out, for the political and other leadership, even in the intelligentsia, to come out, not just to condemn, but help in evolving norms and normative and policy structures that can address these kinds of violations. So as a judge,
yes. As a defender of law yourself, right. People will come before you, Smokin, and we hear that everyone has a price. Is it that the law protects people with money?
Not at all. Well, I'm not here to defend. Let me tell you this, Kevin. In all justice systems, we have the weakest links. Now, for the 10 years or so that I've served at the judiciary, at the Kenyan judiciary, I know for sure that a large majority of our judges and magistrates do what they took an oath of office to do. But I'm also aware And I know that there have been cases where we have individuals who veer off from their oath of office. So there were days when you could actually say that justice is for sale. But these days, you can actually go to our courts and expect justice. But where, in fact, there are incidences of justice for sale, there are mechanisms where such things must be completely confronted. And if you conducted research, for example, Kevin, you may very well to come up with examples from those who have suffered, from those who have had to pay their way. But you will also come across litigants or past litigants who will tell you that I did prosecute my case, I did argue, I was given an opportunity, and ultimately justice was done. Okay.
As an assistant, well, there was a time that you are assistant of anti-corruption commission in Kenya, isn't it? And,
yes.
And again, excuse my ignorance, but I don't remember reading anywhere that the commission either defended young people somewhere or someone was taken to court as a result of taking advantage of the employee. Was that not your remit?
No, that was not our remit at that time. At that time, corruption was technically defined in law. So that such violations, as you refer to, did not fall within, strictly speaking, the mandate of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission as it was known then. Remember that at the time I served at the commission, we were serving under the old constitution. We were serving under the old constitution where we depended on the rigidities of law and the goodwill of the political leadership. But the situation is fast changing because now we have a constitution that is robust in its recognition of rights. We have a constitution that is actually pretty activist in nature. It is written even in not conventional language. It is written in unconventional language. So using that kind of instrument, a judge or an agency can actually craft a model of fighting these vices that you refer to.
Yes, yeah. So just to move on from this, so you are assuring me, you as a judge, as a defender of Constitution, and you respect human rights.
Yes.
So there are mechanisms that young people can follow, can use,
yes,
to get justice, especially when they're being taken advantage of.
Absolutely. In fact, this is the time for young people to mobilize. This is the time for young people to actually demonstrate in various fora how they're being subjected to all types of indignity. And they must, we have now what we call a growing and emerging or nascent public interest litigation. Public interest litigation, as recognized by the Constitution, is an opportunity that must be exploited by young people, not be left to one or two individuals, because then public interest litigation can also be distorted and it can turn into a front for the promotion of vested commercial and other interests in our society. But if young people become acutely aware, they should actually hold fora. They should engage the judges and magistrates. They should engage the Law Society of Kenya, for example, so that they become, if I may use it, the guinea pigs of public interest litigation. So that is a major venue. And I must say, I'm disappointed that our young people have not taken advantage of that avenue.
But where do they get it, Smoky? Where do they get this information from?
They must get it in the fora, in the networks they build. And as I've said, they should engage. They should engage judges. They should engage politicians. They should engage legal practitioners. They should engage the academics and say, give us a forum. Let us tell you how we suffer. And then they should mobilize finances to be able to approach the courts. Remember that there are now no fees chargeable where a litigation, a given case is classified as public interest.
So will you? Will you be engaged with this kind of stuff? Like, for example, if there's a platform of forum that young people want to express their concerns, you yourself are smoking. Will you be part of that?
Oh yes. There is nothing to stop me from engaging with the Kenyan youth at all levels, as long as I'm not engaged in active political mobilization. But there is nothing to stop me. Every other time we are invited, for example, as judges, be they of the High Court or Court of Appeal or judges of the Supreme Court, to deliver lectures and engage in fairly good discussions with our young people. And I am available, my colleagues are available. I think the traditional image of a judge has changed tremendously.
Right. And listen, you talking to me here, I think it's one of those processes, isn't it, of people exchanging information. For those that have just joined us, my name is Kevin Nyango. I'm speaking to Honorable Justice Smokin Wanjala, who practices law in Kenya. Justice, do you believe in fake it till you make it?
Oh, no. If there is something called fate, grab it. You are the determinant of your own fate, the determinant of your own destiny. If you believe in fate until you make it, that is the beginning of never making it.
That's interesting. And look, if you see them, for example, I'll talk about musicians, for instance. You see the way they dress, the cars they drive, but if you look behind the scene, they're actually struggling. But through that image, there are opportunities.
No, but then that is fake. Okay, that's a facade. If you wanted to if I can put it that way, that is just a facade. Be what you must be as a human being. And let me tell you, Kevin, there are certain principles to which we must commit ourselves. For example, the principle of hard work, of saying, if I have been told this is the way to reach from point A to B, then what am I supposed to do? All I should seek is give me an opportunity, and then I shall apply myself. How do young people exert themselves? Do not admire what you see, but ask yourself if there is a way of reaching that point that point of life. So it's a question of hard work, of self-discipline, and also agitating for opportunity. And you know, young people can never and will not make it if they think that society or the political leadership is doing them a favor. It is not doing them a favor. They must demand what is due to them. They must demand for equal opportunity. They must demand for justice. And so all these things is about agitating for what is due to us.
Yeah. Right. Well, talking about work ethics, and that's a huge challenge. And I want to generalize, which I know people will throw stones here. So I'll be very fortunate to work in various countries in Africa and in Europe as well. And you look at work ethics, Smokin, it's very, very different, isn't it?
Right. So very different.
So is that community? Is that because of community? I want to say community of Kenya, for instance, or just what is it? Because the work ethics really in Kenya is wanting at the moment.
Right. It's because of the dynamics of society which allow us to start developing a culture that is completely unsustainable, that goes against what defines work as we have come to understand it. Work ethic all over the world must revolve around certain standards. And I've already talked about the hard work. I've already talked about discipline. I can talk about integrity in all its facets. I can talk about humility. I can talk about persistence and consistency and fairness. And so that at the end of the day, the social product that comes out of that work ethic is a social product that can benefit all. But if you have a work ethic where young people want to become overnight millionaires through shortcuts, through all these things that, and when you talk about a shortcut, you are talking about an action that is contrary to the law, an action that is contrary to established procedures, shortcuts. So that why would you want to become, for example, Kevin, tell me, why would you want to become a millionaire at this age? From what I see, you're still fairly young. And why do you want to? Would you want to have bank accounts that have monies which even your future grandchildren cannot exhaust? Give me one rationale. But I think you'll be proud, and I'm happy you've had the opportunity to travel across the world, and you know that things are built not on shortcuts, not on quicksand, but they are built on commitment and hard work. What matters is the opportunity.
So, but people define success differently. And for example, again, I'm going to use Kenya as a context. You know, you look at politicians. You know, the cars they drive, where they live. Like, you know, I want to admire that. You know, we assume that, you know, the life is very smooth with a big bank account. So it doesn't matter what we define as hard work or results of hard work, as long as, you know, my account keeps on getting better. It doesn't matter really.
I think it matters, and that is the tragedy of our nation. That is the tragedy of our country, is that we forget to ask ourselves how those fat bank accounts came to be. Because if then there are ways that I can become a multi-billionaire in 1 or 2 years, ways that are legal, then let young people be told. Let us be told that you can also do this if you follow this path. But if what we are being told is opaque, we are being told find out how you will determine your own future, we are not being helped at all. And therefore, what am I saying? I am saying that wealth should be reflected in the quality of all the people, right, but not in the quality of life that is led by showbiz individuals. That's what I'm saying.
Interesting. Listen, I know we are going past the hour now. So as a judge, you know, I'm sure, you know, you've got cases. No, forget about that. When you talk about working with people you don't like, or you don't love,
right?
You know, but you like the place, you like the role that you're doing, but you don't like them.
Right.
How can one manage that kind of situation?
Yeah, let us remember that likes and dislikes by human beings for each other are based on a variety of factors. They are based on impressions, they are based on judgments, they are based on information. Sometimes they are based on outright prejudices. So before, in fact, you ask, well, how should I work with somebody I dislike? First ask yourself, why do you dislike them? What led to your dislike? If it was through impression, how did you form that impression? If it was through information, did you gauge that information? Why don't you like this person? And once you fashion an answer to that question, then automatically you will come out with mechanisms of how to work with them. You come through a situational analysis. It will give you some answers. One, whether you must work with that person, whether you like it or not, okay? Or whether you may work with that person, or whether you need not work with that person. If it gives you option one, then it is for you to critique your own impressions yourself as to why you didn't like them, and then create a balance. If you create a balance, you will avoid situations that led you to your dislike. And then you can work with them because you have no option. You have no option. And if it's just a prejudice that you have, then work on your own prejudice. You'll be able then to accommodate the people you think you dislike. At the end of the day, you might end up knowing that actually you had no reason to dislike them at all. But if you dislike people you need not work with, then don't work with them.
How can we build critical thinking as a skill?
A critical thinking as a skill comes out of It's both a pedagogy, but it's also a discussional scenario. Actually, we must keep reading. And we must keep reading. Young people must not say, I hate books. I hate, you take a newspaper and you are looking for some pages that will never develop your critical thinking. So first, read and also exchange ideas, engage in discourses, subject your thought systems into writing so that the same may be subjected to analytical critique. That is how you develop critical thinking. You will never develop critical thinking unless you read, unless you engage in discourses, unless you write, unless you also subject your own thoughts to criticism. Then you will develop critical thinking and learn to appreciate contrary opinions.
Well, I'm assuming as a judge, you must be reading a lot, Smokin.
Oh yes, damned if as a judge you don't read. You have no business being a judge or being an academic. Reading is the bread and butter of a judge's life or a scholar's life. So reading to me is what feeds the mind. So you must read.
Look, by the end of this week, well, next week, thousands of people will be watching this clip here. So right. I think I'm duty bound to ask you, as a judge, life is not that bad, Smokin, is it?
What do you mean life is not that bad?
Well, you have bread butter at the table. You probably have more than 3 bathrooms in your house and probably more than 4 cars as well in your garage.
Let me tell you this. As a judge, I cannot define myself as a person who is struggling or who is suffering because I have what to eat. I have a shelter. I may not have those vehicles you're talking about or bathrooms, but I do lead a life that cannot be described as an undignified life. That is correct. And being a judge of the Supreme Court, I have all these things. But remember, I do not live on an island. I am surrounded by poverty. And therefore, I share whatever little that I get or whatever I get with that surrounding of poverty, of want. I have to share my salary with some of my siblings or some of the people in society who simply do not have the wherewithal. When a young man walks into my chambers and says they're just about to graduate and they are just looking for fees for the last semester, it touches me. And I must go out of my way to see whether I can actually help him cross the line. So you will never, unless you are those people you are talking about, you will never lead a complete life of dignity when the surroundings, when the society at large is struggling. And therefore we must invest in equalizing one another. We must invest. If young people had jobs all over, they will never walk into our chambers. They will in fact build their capacities and they will help us to help others. So basically, we are never rich unless all of us are rich. We are not.
Just listen. Oh, you're very good with the word. That's why you're a judge. Look, last question for me, and I will let you go.
Right.
Hey, what's the role of internet when it comes to equal opportunities or even attractive opportunities?
Yes, the internet is a very social, a very powerful social tool in terms of helping young people to mobilize and to establish networks and also to enhance their innovative potentialities. In fact, the internet is a revolution of the century, and everything else will be built upon the internet. We are going to move away from our traditional sources of livelihoods and go into the internet because it's a very, very powerful tool. And I think young people should take advantage of that to harness their skills. For me, that is a revolution of the century.
So those who are at home right now and listen to us, and they have this perception that hakuna kazi. What do you tell them, Smokin?
There will be hakuna kazi, meaning there are no formal jobs where you will walk out of college like it was during our time, and there are jobs there, advertisements waiting, and you choose one. That has gone because the state is no longer capable of creating, of giving jobs. But the state must create an enabling environment for job creation. And the internet, to me, the media, the internet, to me, is one of those tools which we must continue to mine. And I would encourage young people to actually technologize their job searches and just exchange information. What is it we can do? What is it that Kenya has that it can offer the region through? How do you discover that? How do you discover those skills? So let us not resign and say, hakuna kazi, but let us continue pushing the government to create an environment of where jobs can be created. Let us also create, because if as an individual, young people can actually create employment, not just for each other, but for others. So we are asking the political and other leadership, give us the tools, give us the opportunity, so that we shall harness our skills. And for example, what happens, let me just say this before you let me go. Let me say this. Over the years, why is it that successive governments in Kenya have failed to craft long-lasting solutions for job opportunities, for job creation? Why is it so? Because we have never mobilized a national conversation to interrogate the real causes for unemployment. Okay, what happens every other time? There is just political sloganeering, sugar-coated interventions, for example. If we'll do this, we'll do this. We will create a fund for the youth so that they can tap into that fund for business. They're assuming that every young person in Kenya is an entrepreneur, is a tradesmith, is a tradesperson. I mean, there are people who do not have any idea whether you give them 2 million shillings now and say, now start a business. Which business are you telling me to start? You know, so we need to be innovative. We have failed.
Smokin, but you can access these people though.
Well, we can. Of course, I can access these people. Of course, I can. You know, you can't access the people. What are you telling me?
They're more likely to listen to you than listen to me.
Yes, and every time we engage in extrajudicial conversations, I never tire in pointing this out. Whenever I engage our people in government, I said, but you people, you shock me. Even every political representative nowadays, from an MP to women representatives to governors, everybody name them senators. The first thing they demand is that they want to be allocated a fund.
Yes.
A fund which they will now distribute to the youth. Tell me, nothing will come out of such scenarios. Nothing.
Wow. Listen, we can see the whole evening just talking about this thing. I've got to thank you for your time, Justice Smokin. My last word is, in this platform, I should ask my guests to introduce to the next person. For example, I was introduced to you by mutual friends, Willie. So right. I would like you, if possible.
Right. Yes.
Or should I send a message rather than asking them here? What do you prefer?
You can send a message.
Okay.
And I'll definitely introduce this platform to my colleagues. In fact, I have shared with them that link for today. And when we meet, when we are having our lunch, I'll tell, come on, you people, jump onto this and now get in touch with Kevin, because we have different skills on this bench. But I'll go beyond that. And I think this is lovely. This is just something, I'm very happy. I'm privileged, actually, to be on this platform.
Smokin, we're in church, I shall see.
I'm really privileged. And you are very determined in your pursuit of your sources. You must. At one time, they said, oh, Kevin must think of a terrible invasion. But that is...
Smokin, Smoky, come on, don't make me start having horns. But listen, I've got to thank you now for your time. I know how busy you are. I know how things are in Kenya at the moment. But you setting up, for time to speaking to me. And I've got to tell the viewers, we've never met. So actually, this is the power of the internet, isn't it?
It's absolutely.
But here we are talking and promising each other good things. So the internet cannot be bad.
The internet cannot be bad. It's a revolution of the century.
Oh, Hon.Justice Smokin Wanjala, thank you so much for your time, and I'll keep engaging.
Thank you, and God be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Asante.